Jake Morrison stood at the viewing window of New Geneva Station and watched the alien ships approach Earth. The massive vessels moved through space like floating cities, their hulls covered in strange symbols that hurt to look at for too long. Jake had been Earth's top diplomat for 15 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. First contact with alien life was supposed to be humanity's greatest achievement, but the sick feeling in his stomach told him this meeting would not go as anyone hoped. Behind him, Captain Lisa Park paced back and forth across the station's main conference room. Her uniform was crisp, and her face was calm, but Jake could see the tension in her shoulders. Lisa commanded Earth's defense fleet, which meant she knew better than anyone how badly outgunned humanity would be if these aliens decided to fight. The alien ships were each the size of Manhattan, and there were 12 of them. Earth's entire space navy could fit inside just one of those massive hulls. Dr. Ryan Cole sat at the conference table, his tablet covered in notes and calculations. Ryan was humanity's leading expert on alien technology, though until today that had mostly meant studying radio signals from distant stars. Now he was frantically trying to understand the energy readings coming from the alien fleet. Every few minutes he would shake his head and mutter something about impossible physics. The conference room doors slid open and President Alex Stone walked in, followed by Admiral Katie Bell. Alex looked like he had not slept in days, which was probably true since the alien fleet had appeared at the edge of the solar system 3 days ago. Katie's expression was unreadable, but Jake knew her well enough to recognize the look she got when she was planning something dangerous. A bright flash filled the viewing window, and suddenly the aliens were there. Jake stepped back instinctively, even though he knew the conference room was protected by thick metal and energy shields. The beings that appeared before them were unlike anything humanity had imagined. The leader was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal that shifted colors as it moved. Its voice came from everywhere at once, speaking perfect English with no accent at all. "I am High Curator Zelnathi of the Viridian Hegemony, speaking for the Galactic Confederation," the crystal being said. "We have come to offer your species a great gift." Jake stepped forward, trying to project confidence he did not feel. "I am Ambassador Jake Morrison, representing the United Earth Government. We welcome this historic contact between our species." The alien's crystalline face showed what might have been amusement. "Historic, yes, though perhaps not in the way you imagine." Other figures appeared around Zelnathi, creatures that defied easy description. One looked like a swarm of insects that moved as a single being. Another seemed to be made of pure energy, flickering between different colors. A third was covered in scales and stood on 4 legs like some kind of alien wolf. "Your species calls this system home," Zelnathi continued. "But you do not understand its true value. Earth sits at the intersection of 3 major hyperspace trade routes. This location is crucial for galactic commerce and must be properly managed." Lisa stepped forward, her hand resting on her weapon. "Managed by whom?" The insect swarm buzzed, with what sounded like laughter. "By civilized species, of course. Your people are young and violent. You have had space travel for less than 2 centuries, yet you have already begun fighting wars among the stars. The asteroid belt conflicts, the Mars colonial disputes, the mining station raids. Your species lacks the wisdom to govern such an important system." Ryan looked up from his tablet, his face pale. "What are you saying exactly?" "We are offering your species sanctuary," the energy being said, its voice like wind chimes in a storm. "There is a world called Haven 7, far from any conflict zones. It is beautiful and peaceful, with clear skies and gentle weather. Your entire population can relocate there within a standard year. We will provide transportation and basic supplies to help you establish new settlements. The conference room fell silent except for the hum of the station's life support systems. Jake felt his mouth go dry as the implications sank in. You want us to abandon Earth. We want you to accept our generous offer, Zelnathi replied. Haven 7 is larger than Earth, with more land suitable for agriculture. Your species will thrive there, free from the dangers of contested space. In return, Earth will become a neutral trading hub administered by the Confederation. No single species will claim it, ensuring peace and prosperity for all. Katie finally spoke, her voice deadly quiet. And if we refuse? The scaled creature growled something in its own language before switching to English. Young species always ask this question. They think their primitive weapons can challenge the combined might of 12 galactic civilizations. They are always wrong. Alex stepped forward, drawing himself up to his full height. Earth has been humanity's home for thousands of years. Our ancestors built their first cities on its surface. Our greatest achievements, our art, our culture, everything that makes us human is tied to that world. We will not simply abandon it because you find our presence inconvenient. The alien delegation exchanged looks that somehow managed to convey amusement despite their inhuman features. Your attachment is understandable but irrelevant, Zelnathi said. The Confederation has managed galactic affairs for over 10,000 years. We have relocated dozens of species to more suitable worlds. Most eventually thank us for our wisdom. Most? Lisa asked. Those who survived the transition period. The insect swarm buzzed matter-of-factly, the energy being flickered brighter. We are not monsters, despite what your primitive minds might imagine. Haven 7 truly is a beautiful world. Your species will adapt, as all species must when faced with the realities of galactic civilization. The alternative is far less pleasant. For everyone involved, Jake felt anger building in his chest, hot and bright. You come here with your massive ships and your superior technology, and you call this generosity? This is conquest dressed up in pretty words. Conquest implies resistance, Zelnathi replied calmly. We prefer to avoid unnecessary violence. Your fleet consists of 63 vessels, most of which are barely capable of interplanetary travel. Our smallest escort ship could disable your entire navy without sustaining damage. This is not conquest, Ambassador Morrison. This is inevitability. Ryan stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. You have obviously studied our technology and found us wanting. But have you studied our history? Do you know what humanity does when faced with impossible odds? The scaled creature snorted. We know you fight among yourselves constantly. Your own historical records show thousands of wars, most over resources that could be easily shared. What could such a chaotic species possibly teach the galaxy? They could teach you about stubbornness, Katie said with a cold smile. Earth has a saying, give me liberty or give me death. We would rather die free than live as your pets on some reservation world. The alien delegation fell silent for a long moment. Finally, Zelnathi spoke again. You speak of death casually, as if you understand its meaning on a galactic scale. Very well. We offer you 30 of your days to consider our proposal. Discuss it with your leaders, your scientists, your military commanders. Study the mathematics of your situation. When we return, we will expect your answer. The aliens began to fade away, their holographic projections dissolving into static. Just before he disappeared completely, Zelnathi's voice echoed through the conference room one last time. Choose wisely. The galaxy has little patience for foolish species who refuse generous offers. The conference room fell silent as the last traces of the alien presence vanished. Jake looked around at his colleagues and saw his own mixture of fear and anger reflected in their faces. Outside the viewing window, the alien fleet hung in space like a collection of dark stars, waiting for humanity's answer. Alex was the first to speak. Well, that could have gone better. Lisa laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. 30 days to evacuate 8 billion people or face annihilation. I have to admit, they have a gift for ultimatums. Katie walked to the viewing window and stared out at the alien ships. They made one mistake, she said quietly. What's that? Ryan asked. Katie's reflection in the window showed a smile that would have made a shark nervous. They gave us 30 days to prepare. News of humanity's ultimatum spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On the crystal homeworld of Viridian Prime, High Curator Zelnathi transmitted the details of their encounter to the Confederation Council. The response was exactly what he had expected. Amusement mixed with mild irritation that such a primitive species would even consider resistance. The council chamber was a marvel of alien architecture, with representatives from 12 different species gathered in a space that bent reality to accommodate their various needs. The Krathari delegation sat in pools of superheated water that would boil human blood instantly. The energy-based lumini flickered in containment fields that kept their consciousness from dispersing into space. The hive-mind collective buzzed and clicked as thousands of individual insects shared a single thought. The humans actually said no, Zelnathi reported, his crystalline form shifting through different colors as he spoke. Their ambassador seemed genuinely angry that we would ask them to relocate. War Chief Thexmore of the Krathari laughed, sending bubbles through his heated pool. Anger from prey animals. How refreshing. It has been centuries since we encountered a species with such delightful ignorance of their place in the galaxy. Ava, hive mind representative, a swirling mass of insectoid bodies, buzzed its response. Analysis indicates 99.7% probability of human compliance within 15 standard days. Emotional outbursts are common among primitive species when first confronted. With galactic reality, logic will prevail once they calculate their odds of survival. Lumini Prime flickered through several colors before settling on a pale blue that indicated mild concern. Their energy signatures suggest limited technological development, fusion-based propulsion, electromagnetic weapons, primitive artificial intelligence. How did such a species even achieve interplanetary travel? Luck and determination, Zelnathi replied. Their historical records show remarkable persistence in the face of obstacles. They have survived multiple extinction events, global wars, and environmental disasters. Unfortunately, this same stubbornness makes them unsuitable for galactic civilization. High Admiral Vextar of the Void Hunters, a species that looked like living shadows, materialized at the center of the chamber. Their fleet composition is laughable. 63 vessels, the largest barely 800 meters in length. Our escort frigates are larger than their dreadnoughts. A single battle group could reduce their entire military to scrap metal in less than an hour. The discussion continued for several hours, with each species offering their own analysis of humanity's capabilities and probable responses. The consensus was clear. humans would eventually see reason and accept relocation. The only question was how long their pride would delay the inevitable. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity's response was anything but resigned acceptance. President Alex Stone addressed the United Earth Assembly in an emergency session that was broadcast across every inhabited world in the solar system. His words were simple but carried the weight of humanity's entire history. "We have been offered a choice," Alex said, standing at the podium where so many crucial decisions had been made. "Abandon our home or face destruction at the hands of aliens who consider us too primitive to deserve it. I want every person listening to understand what this really means. They are not offering us a new home. They are offering us a cage." The assembly hall erupted in angry voices as representatives from every nation on Earth voiced their outrage. Alex waited for quiet before continuing. "Haven 7 may be a beautiful world, but it will never be our world. It will be a place where humanity goes to slowly forget what we once were. Our children will grow up as refugees, dependent on alien charity and alien permission to exist. I would rather die on the soil of Earth than live as a beggar on an alien world." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not abandon Earth. As news of Earth's defiance spread through galactic communication networks, the reaction was swift and predictable. On the trading world of Nexus Station, alien merchants laughed as they discussed the humans' foolish pride. Betting pools opened across dozens of worlds, with odds heavily favoring humanity's complete surrender within 10 days. The energy beings of the Lumini Collective held a formal discussion about the mathematical certainty of human extinction. Their analysis was precise and merciless. A species with such limited technology facing the combined might of the Confederation had zero chance of survival. They filed their conclusions in the Galactic Database as another case study in primitive species' inability to recognize superior force. But not every alien species found humanity's defiance amusing. On the warrior world of Krathak Prime, young fighters gathered around communication terminals to watch recordings of Alex Stone's speech. There was something in the human leader's voice that reminded them of their own ancestors' war songs, back when the Krathari fought for honor instead of serving as the Confederation's enforcers. One young warrior named Gorth Ak slammed his fist against the wall hard enough to crack the metal. "They speak like true warriors," he growled to his companions. "When did we become so soft that we mock courage instead of respecting it?" His pack leader, an older Krathari named Veltar, bared his teeth in disapproval. "You forget yourself, young one. The humans are prey, not predators. Their courage is meaningless against superior force. Would you respect the bravery of an insect that refuses to flee from your boot?" But Gorthak was not convinced, and neither were many of his generation. They had grown up hearing stories of the great Krathari wars, when their ancestors fought against impossible odds for the simple right to exist as free beings. Now they served aliens who had never proven themselves in honest combat, enforcing the will of crystal beings who hid behind technology instead of facing their enemies claw to claw. On Earth, preparation for war had begun the moment the alien delegation vanished. Admiral Katie Bell worked around the clock to coordinate humanity's defense, knowing that conventional tactics would be useless against such overwhelming technological superiority. If humans were going to survive, they would need to fight smarter, not harder. Captain Lisa Park took command of the retrofit operations, working with Chief Engineer Ben Tucker to modify every available ship for combat. Civilian cargo haulers were fitted with military-grade weapons. Mining vessels had their industrial equipment reconfigured as improvised weapons systems. Even luxury yachts were armed with whatever weapons could be jury-rigged to their hulls. Dr. Ryan Cole led a team of scientists in the most crucial task of all, understanding alien technology well enough to find weaknesses. They had managed to record detailed scans of the alien ships during the first contact meeting, and what they discovered was both terrifying and hopeful. The aliens' technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also standardized across their entire fleet. Every ship used the same shield frequencies, the same power distribution systems, the same basic design principles. They have been the dominant force in the galaxy for so long that they have forgotten how to adapt, Ryan explained to the assembled Defense Council. Their ships are masterpieces of engineering, but they are also predictable. If we can find one weakness, it might apply to their entire fleet. Colonel Amy Foster presented her own analysis of alien psychology and politics. Her intelligence teams had been monitoring galactic communications since first contact, and what they learned painted a picture of a galaxy held together by fear rather than genuine cooperation. "The Confederation is not as united as they want us to believe," Amy reported. "We have detected multiple communication threads suggesting internal tensions. The Krathari warriors are growing restless with their role as enforcers. The hive minds calculate that Confederation expansion has reached unsustainable limits. Even some of the Lumini energy beings seem to be questioning the efficiency of the current system." Katie studied the reports with growing interest. "You are suggesting we might be able to turn them against each other?" "I am suggesting that we might not be the only species in the galaxy that is tired of Viridian rule," Amy replied. "Fear is a powerful motivator, but it is also brittle. If we can show other species that the Confederation can be resisted, some of them might decide to try it themselves." The 30-day countdown had begun, and across the solar system, humanity prepared for a war they could not win through conventional means. But humans had never been conventional, and they had never accepted defeat gracefully. If the galaxy wanted Earth, they would have to take it from humanity's cold, dead hands. On the last day before the Confederation's return, Jake Morrison stood once again at the viewing window of New Geneva Station. The alien fleet still hung in space like a collection of dark stars, waiting for humanity's final answer. But now they were not alone. Scattered around them like tiny sparks of light were Earth's defending ships, hopelessly outgunned but defiantly present. Jake smiled as he watched a formation of modified cargo ships take position near the alien fleet's flank. The aliens probably considered them insignificant, barely worth noticing. That would be their first mistake, but Jake was confident. It would not be their last. The Confederation fleet returned exactly 30 days after their first meeting, their massive ships emerging from hyperspace with the precision of a perfectly choreographed dance. High Curator Zelnathi's crystalline form appeared once again, in the conference room of New Geneva Station. But this time his projection seemed larger and more imposing. Behind him, the representatives of 11 other species stood in silent judgment. "We have returned for your answer," Zelnathi announced, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Have your leaders come to understand the wisdom of our offer?" Jake Morrison stood at the conference table, flanked by President Alex Stone and Admiral Katie Bell. His voice was steady and clear as he delivered humanity's response. "We have considered your offer very carefully. Our answer is the same as it was 30 days ago. Earth is our home, and we will not abandon it. The alien delegation exchanged glances that somehow conveyed both amusement and irritation despite their inhuman features. War Chief Thexmore of the Krathari growled something that sounded like laughter. 30 days to reconsider, and still, you choose extinction over wisdom. Your species truly is as primitive as we calculated. Primitive, perhaps, Katie replied with a cold smile, but not helpless. High Admiral Vextar of the Void Hunters materialized more solidly, his shadow-like form rippling with what might have been curiosity. You have positioned your tiny fleet around our ships. Do you truly believe those antique vessels pose any threat to Confederation technology? We believe in making you work for whatever you take from us, Alex answered. Earth has never surrendered to superior force without a fight. We do not intend to start now. Zelnathi's crystalline form shifted through several colors before settling on a deep red that indicated finality. Very well. You have chosen your path. We will give you one final opportunity to reconsider. Observe. The viewing window filled with light as one of the smaller Confederation ships fired a single shot at an asteroid roughly the size of Manhattan. The rock simply ceased to exist, vaporized so completely that not even dust remained. The demonstration was clear. This was the fate that awaited any world that defied the Confederation's will. Our plasma cannons operate by converting matter directly into energy. The hive mind representative buzzed with mechanical precision. Your electromagnetic shields and metal armor might as well be tissue paper. Your weapons fire solid projectiles that our defensive systems can stop with minimal effort. This conflict will last less than 1 hour. Katie's smile widened, showing teeth. Then you had better get started. The aliens faded from view without another word, but their meaning was clear. The grace period was over. Within minutes, the Confederation fleet began moving into attack formation, their massive ships arranging themselves in a pattern that would allow them to reduce Earth's defenses to scrap metal with maximum efficiency. Admiral Katie Bell stood in the command center of Earth's flagship, the UES Defiance, watching the alien formation take shape on her tactical displays. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, each person knowing that they were about to participate in the most important battle in human history. The odds were impossible, but that had never stopped humanity before. All ships. This is Admiral Bell, she announced over the fleet communication channel. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of every species in the galaxy to determine their own fate. The aliens think we are primitive and weak. Let us show them what human ingenuity looks like when backed into a corner. Captain. Lisa Park commanded the first wave of Earth's defense, leading a squadron of heavily modified cargo ships toward the alien fleet's left flank. Her ships looked pathetic compared to the sleek alien vessels, their hulls covered in hastily welded armor plating and jury-rigged weapon systems. But appearances could be deceiving, especially when humans were involved. The first exchange of fire came when the Confederation ships unleashed their plasma cannons at extreme range. The energy beams cut through space like purple lightning striking human ships with devastating effect. 3 vessels vanished instantly, their hulls vaporized by weapons that operated on principles humanity barely understood. But the surviving ships continued their advance, their crews knowing that retreat meant the death of everything they held dear. Captain Tony Walsh led his squadron of modified asteroid miners through the outer system's debris field, using terrain that the aliens had ignored as insignificant. His ships were ugly and slow, designed for breaking rocks rather than fighting wars, but they carried something the aliens had not expected: industrial mining charges powerful enough to crack planetoids in half. Remember, we only get one shot. At this, Tony transmitted to his squadron as they maneuvered through the asteroid belt. Make it count. The aliens had dismissed the asteroid field as a navigational hazard, something to be avoided rather than used tactically. Their ships were designed for combat in the clear space between stars, where superior technology could be brought to bear with maximum effectiveness. They had not anticipated an enemy that would use the environment itself as a weapon. Tony's squadron released their mining charges at carefully calculated intervals, turning chunks of rock and ice into kinetic projectiles, moving at tremendous velocity. The aliens' defensive systems were designed to stop energy weapons and guided missiles, not improvised asteroid bombardments. Several alien ships took hits that sent them spinning out of formation, their shields flickering under impacts they had not been programmed to expect. Dr. Ryan Cole's reverse engineering project had yielded unexpected dividends. Working with salvaged alien technology from their previous brief encounters, his team had discovered something remarkable. Alien shield generators could be modified to work in reverse, creating gravitational catapults that could accelerate human projectiles to incredible speeds. The physics are crude but effective, Ryan explained over the tactical channel as human ships began launching modified missiles at velocities that defied conventional physics. We are using their own technology against them, just not in the way they intended. The alien fleet responded with increased firepower, their plasma cannons filling space with deadly energy. More human ships died, their crews vaporized before they could even scream. But for every human vessel destroyed, another took its place, piloted by crews who had volunteered for what they knew would likely be a suicide mission. Colonel Amy Foster's psychological warfare campaign began to show results as the battle intensified. She had been broadcasting targeted messages to each alien species, exploiting the tensions and grievances her intelligence teams had identified. The Krathari warriors found themselves watching human pilots perform ramming attacks that would have made their ancestors proud. Several Krathari captains began accidentally missing their targets, their warrior culture responding to the courage they witnessed. The Hive Mind Collective began receiving data that did not match their calculations. Humans were supposed to break and run when faced with superior force, but instead they fought harder as their losses mounted. The mathematical models that had predicted easy victory were proving inadequate to explain human behavior. Even some of the Lumini energy beings began to flicker with uncertainty. Their consciousness was based on efficient energy management, and the human tactic of sacrificing individual ships for tactical advantage did not compute with their understanding of rational behavior. Commander Steve Barnes saw his opportunity. When the alien flagship's shields fluctuated after taking multiple kinetic impacts from Tony's asteroid bombardment, his ship, the UES Determination, was one of the few vessels equipped with Dr. Cole's modified alien technology. If he could get close enough to the flagship, he might be able to penetrate their defenses. "All power to forward shields," Steve ordered his crew as they dove toward the massive alien vessel. "We are going to show these aliens what humans do when cornered." The Determination's hull groaned under the stress of alien weapons fire. But Steve's ship had been reinforced with every piece of salvaged alien technology Ryan's team could integrate. The vessel was more alien than human by now, a hybrid creation that represented humanity's gift for adaptation and improvisation. Steve's ship punched through the flagship's shields just as they re-established themselves, trapping the human vessel inside the alien defensive perimeter. It was exactly what Steve had been hoping for. His ship was now close enough to use weapons the aliens had not anticipated. Good old-fashioned boarding charges. The explosion that breached the alien flagship's hull was visible from Earth itself, a bright flash that marked the moment when humanity proved that superior technology was not always enough. Steve led his boarding party through the breach, carrying weapons designed for close-quarters combat in environments where advanced alien technology was useless. The aliens had not fought hand-to-hand combat in centuries. Their conflicts were decided by superior firepower and technological advantage, not by individual courage and determination. They had no answer for humans armed with simple kinetic weapons and an absolute refusal to surrender. Steve's team fought their way through corridors designed for beings twice their size, using mobility and aggression to overcome enemies who... The news of High Curator Zelnathi's capture spread across the galaxy like wildfire, carried by the same communication networks that had once mocked humanity's defiance. On a dozen worlds, alien populations stopped their daily activities to stare at transmission screens showing the impossible. The Supreme Commander of the Galactic Confederation, held prisoner by a species the galaxy had dismissed as primitive insects. War Chief Thexmore was the first of the alien commanders to break ranks entirely. Standing on the bridge of his massive warship, surrounded by his clan warriors, he watched the recordings of human fighters ramming their ships into Confederation vessels with the fearless dedication of true warriors. His scarred face twisted into what his species considered a smile of pure respect. "By the ancient codes," he growled to his assembled pack leaders, "when did we become so weak that we mock courage instead of honoring it? These humans fight like our ancestors did, when Krathari blood ran hot and we bowed to no one." The younger warriors in his crew began to stir with excitement, their predatory instincts responding to the display of pure combat determination they had witnessed. For generations, they had served as enforcers for the Confederation, using their natural warrior abilities to crush resistance movements and maintain order. But watching humans sacrifice themselves for their home world reminded them of what they had lost in exchange for technological comfort and galactic status. "Lord Thexmore," one of his lieutenants said carefully, "the Confederation expects us to continue the assault. Our orders are to reduce the human fleet to debris and prepare Earth for occupation." Thexmore's eyes blazed with the fire his species had not shown in centuries. "The Confederation can expect whatever it wants. We are Krathari. We do not make war on true warriors without honor. Signal the human fleet. Tell them that Clan Thexmore recognizes their courage and withdraws from this battle." The lieutenant's jaw dropped open in shock. "Sir, that would be treason against the Confederation. The consequences..." "The consequences," Thexmore interrupted with a roar that echoed through the ship, "will be that we remember what it means to be warriors instead of lapdog enforcers for crystal beings who have never proven themselves in honest combat." 3 Krathari clan fleets broke formation and began withdrawing from the battle zone, their commanders broadcasting similar declarations of respect for human courage. On their home worlds, younger Krathari warriors began gathering in the traditional war circles, asking hard questions about why their people served aliens who had never faced them claw to claw in battle. The Hive Mind Collective's response was more calculated but equally devastating to Confederation unity. Their vast consciousness had been running continuous probability calculations since the battle began, and the results were forcing them to reconsider everything they thought they knew about galactic power structures. Queen Node Primary. The Central. Intelligence that coordinated billions of individual insect minds. transmitted its conclusions to the other hive mind clusters scattered across the galaxy. Recalculation complete. Human resistance exceeds all predictive models. Confederation unity probability has decreased by 67% in the last standard hour. Viridian Dominance sustainability rating has dropped to critical levels. The insectoid swarms that served as the Confederation's information network began subtly altering their reports, emphasizing the shocking effectiveness of human tactics while downplaying Confederation advantages. Their collective intelligence had determined that the current galactic order was no longer mathematically stable, and the hive mind always adapted to new realities faster than other species. But it was Dr. Ryan Cole's discovery aboard the captured flagship that truly changed the nature of the conflict. Working frantically to understand the vessel's systems while the battle raged around them, Ryan and his team uncovered something that horrified and enraged them in equal measure. "Admiral Bell, you need to see this immediately," Ryan transmitted from the alien bridge, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. The Confederation's unity was never voluntary. They have been using mind control technology to suppress independent thought among their member species. Katie's response crackled through the communication system. "Explain that again, Doctor." "Mind control?" Ryan held up a crystalline device that pulsed with inner light. "This is a neural interface matrix. Every Confederation ship has dozens of them, all connected to a central control network. The Lumini energy beings are not willing allies. They are enslaved consciousness trapped in crystalline prisons. Their energy forms have been partially absorbed by Viridian technology, forcing them to serve against their will." The implications hit Katie like a physical blow. "How many species?" "At least half of the Confederation member species show signs of neural manipulation," Ryan replied grimly. "The hive minds appear to be naturally resistant, which explains their calculating nature. The Krathari have some kind of biological immunity, probably related to their warrior culture. But the others, including some we thought were willing participants, have been enslaved for centuries." Katie immediately ordered the technical specifications broadcast across all galactic frequencies, accompanied by the evidence Ryan's team had extracted from the flagship's computers. The revelation spread through the galaxy's communication networks faster than any military assault could have achieved. On the energy homeworld of Lumina Core, consciousness that had been trapped for generations suddenly felt the first stirrings of freedom as the mind control signals weakened. The artificial constraints that had forced them to serve Viridian interests began to crack, allowing suppressed memories and emotions to resurface. The rage that followed was literally incandescent, as billions of energy beings remembered what they had lost to Confederation unity. Captain Lisa Park, still fighting in the debris field around Earth, watched her tactical display light up with new contacts as alien ships throughout the galaxy began turning on each other. "Admiral, we are seeing massive fleet movements in at least 12 star systems. It looks like open warfare has broken out across the Confederation." The galaxy exploded into revolution as the truth about Viridian mind control spread from world to world. Species that had served the Confederation for millennia suddenly remembered their original cultures, their suppressed desires for independence, their resentment at being forced to abandon their traditional ways in favor of galactic civilization. On the crystal mining world of Epsilon Carinae, enslaved Lumini workers broke free from their containment fields and began systematically destroying the infrastructure that had held them captive. Their energy forms burned through Viridian control systems like living fire, each explosion of light representing centuries of suppressed fury finally given expression. The insectoid populations of the hive mind worlds began broadcasting detailed analysis of Confederation resource allocation, revealing how the Viridians had been systematically stripping wealth from member worlds to fund their own technological development. The mathematical proof of exploitation was undeniable, turning economic grievances into open rebellion. Even some of the species that had initially remained loyal to the Confederation began questioning everything they thought they knew about galactic civilization. The discovery that their unity had been artificially enforced through technological slavery forced them to examine their own motivations and desires for the first time in generations. Commander Steve Barnes, still holding High Curator Zelnathi, prisoner on the captured flagship, found himself in the unique position of interrogating the architect of galactic oppression. The crystalline being's arrogance had given way to something approaching panic as reports of rebellion flooded in from across the galaxy. "This is impossible," Zelnathi repeated, his crystalline form cycling through colors that indicated distress and confusion. "The neural networks were perfect. No species could break free without our permission. The control matrices were tested for thousands of years." Steve studied the alien with growing understanding. "You made one mistake. You assumed that the desire for freedom could be permanently suppressed. But you cannot control what people dream about when they sleep. And eventually dreams become reality if the dreamers are willing to fight for them." Amy Foster's psychological warfare campaign reached its peak as she began coordinating with resistance movements across the galaxy. Her intelligence teams had identified sympathetic factions on dozens of worlds, and now they worked to provide tactical support and communication links to help coordinate the growing rebellion. "We are not fighting alone anymore," Amy reported to the Earth Defense Council as reports of successful uprisings flooded in. "Half the galaxy is in open revolt against Viridian control. Our resistance has given other species the courage to remember what freedom feels like. But the Viridians were not finished. Their core fleets, composed entirely of their own species and mechanical servants immune to the neural control breakdown, began regrouping for a final assault. If they could not maintain their empire through subtlety and mind control, they would restore it through brute force and the threat of complete annihilation. The crystalline beings had planet-killer weapons. In their arsenal devices, the final confrontation did not take place at Earth as everyone expected, but across multiple star systems as the galaxy fragmented into the largest war in recorded history. The Viridians, desperate to maintain their crumbling empire, deployed their ultimate weapons against worlds that dared to defy their authority. Planet-killer devices emerged from hidden arsenals, massive constructions designed to shatter entire worlds by destabilizing their planetary cores. Their first target was the rebel colony of New Haven, a farming world that had declared independence. After learning the truth about Confederation mind control, the planet died in minutes, its surface cracking open like an egg as the core destabilization weapon did its terrible work. 8 million beings perished instantly, their crime being the desire to govern themselves without alien oversight. The message was clear: submit or face extinction on a scale that would make previous wars look like minor disagreements. But instead of terrifying the galaxy into submission, the destruction of New Haven had the opposite effect. Species that had been wavering in their support for rebellion now saw exactly what Viridian civilization really meant when challenged. Admiral Katie Bell stood in the command center of the growing Allied fleet, watching tactical displays that showed the scope of the galactic uprising. Former Confederation ships fought alongside human vessels, Crithari war fleets, and freed Lumini energy beings in a chaotic but determined resistance movement. The fleet was a patchwork of different technologies and fighting styles, but it was united by a shared understanding. Freedom was worth any price. The Viridians are regrouping their core fleets for a final push, reported Captain Lisa Park from her flagship. Intelligence suggests they are planning to strike at Earth, Krathak Prime, and the Lumini energy station simultaneously. If they can break our 3 strongest resistance centers, they think the rest of the galaxy will surrender. Katie studied the tactical projections with grim determination. The Viridian plan was sound from a military perspective. Earth had become the symbol of successful resistance, while the Krathari homeworld represented the warrior spirit that was inspiring other species to fight. The Lumini energy stations were crucial for powering the communication networks that allowed the scattered resistance movements to coordinate their activities. They are probably right, Katie admitted to her staff. If they can crush our 3 main strongholds, the other rebel worlds will likely lose hope and surrender. We cannot allow that to happen. Dr. Ryan Cole, working with liberated alien scientists from a dozen different species, had been analyzing the planet-killer weapons and searching for weaknesses. His multinational team represented the first truly cooperative scientific effort in galactic history, with each species contributing their unique knowledge and perspectives to solve the problem. The good news is that the planet killers are not invincible, Ryan reported during the Allied Fleet Strategy meeting. They require enormous amounts of energy to function, and they have a significant charging period between uses. The bad news is that they work exactly as advertised. If one of those devices targets a world, that world dies. But Ryan's team had discovered something else, something that gave the Allied fleet a chance to turn the Viridians' ultimate weapon against them. Working with freed Lumini consciousness and hive mind collective intelligence, they had developed a computer virus specifically designed to corrupt Viridian crystal-based technology. The virus spreads through their neural control networks, explained Dr. Sarah Kim, a human physicist working alongside a Lumini energy scholar called Bright Thought Ascending. Since all Viridian technology is interconnected through crystalline matrices, one infected system can potentially compromise their entire fleet. The plan was audacious beyond anything previously attempted in galactic history. Instead of trying to defend their strongholds, the Allied fleet would launch coordinated strikes against Viridian core worlds, carrying the virus directly to the source of their technological superiority. It was a desperate gamble that would either free the galaxy or result in the complete extinction of every species that had dared to resist. Captain Tony Walsh volunteered to lead the most dangerous part of the mission, a direct assault on Viridian Prime, the crystal homeworld where the Empire's central control systems were located. His squadron consisted of ships from 6 different species, each one carrying a piece of the virus program and the determination to see it delivered regardless of the cost. Remember, we only need 1 ship to get through, Tony transmitted to his diverse squadron as they approached the heavily defended Viridian homeworld. Everyone else is expendable, including me. The only thing that matters is completing the mission. The battle for Viridian Prime was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The crystal beings fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction, throwing every weapon and defensive system they possessed against the attacking fleet. Their planet-killer devices fired continuously, reducing Allied ships to subatomic particles with each shot. But for every Allied vessel destroyed, 2 more took its place. Ships commanded by former slaves who had spent centuries dreaming of this moment pressed forward through walls of deadly energy, their crews willing to die for the chance to strike back at their oppressors. War Chief Thexmore led a formation of Krathari battle cruisers in a frontal assault that drew the attention of the Viridian defense fleet. His warriors fought with the savage joy of predators finally unleashed, their ships ramming into crystal vessels in displays of pure aggressive determination that horrified and inspired in equal measure. The freed Lumini energy beings proved to be the most effective fighters of all, their consciousness flowing through space like living lightning to strike directly at Viridian crystal matrices. Centuries of forced servitude had taught them exactly where their former masters were most vulnerable, and their revenge burned brighter than stars. Commander Steve Barnes, still holding High Curator Zelnathi prisoner aboard the captured flagship, found himself in the unique position of watching the Viridian Empire's final moments through the eyes of its architect. The crystalline being's arrogance had completely dissolved into panic as his perfect galactic order collapsed around him. "You have doomed the galaxy," Zelnathi whispered, his form flickering through colors that indicated terror and despair. "Without the Confederation's guidance, the younger species will destroy themselves in endless wars. We brought order to chaos, civilization to barbarity." Steve looked at the alien with a mixture of pity and contempt. "You brought slavery disguised as order. True civilization cannot be imposed from above. It has to grow from the choices free beings make for themselves." Tony's squadron finally broke through the Viridian defense perimeter, but at a terrible cost. Only 3 ships remained from the original 25, and 2 of those were heavily damaged. Tony's own vessel, the UES Persistence, had lost most of its hull plating and was running on backup power systems. "This is as far as we go," Tony announced to his surviving crew as they approached the Viridian Control Center. "Everyone to the escape pods. I am taking her in alone." His crew refused to abandon their captain, and Tony did not have time to argue. The Persistence dove toward the crystal spire that housed the Viridian Empire's central nervous system, carrying the virus program and the hopes of every free being in the galaxy. The impact was visible from orbit, a brilliant explosion that sent cracks racing through the crystal structure of the entire planet. But more importantly, it delivered Ryan's virus directly into the heart of the Viridian technology network. The virus spread through the crystal matrices like digital wildfire, corrupting control systems and freeing enslaved consciousness across the galaxy. Planet-killer weapons shut down in mid-charge. Slave ships turned on their Viridian overseers. Mind control networks collapsed as billions of beings suddenly remembered what it felt like to think their own thoughts. On Earth, Admiral Katie Bell watched her tactical displays light up with signals of liberation from across the galaxy. Viridian fleets were surrendering or being destroyed by their own former slaves. The Crystal Empire that had ruled for millennia was collapsing in a matter of hours. "Admiral," reported Captain Lisa Park, her voice filled with wonder and exhaustion, "we are receiving surrender offers from the remaining Viridian core fleets. They are requesting terms for the survival of their species." Katie considered the request carefully. The Viridians had enslaved countless worlds and destroyed any species that resisted their rule. Justice demanded harsh punishment for such crimes. But the galaxy had just learned the bitter lesson of what happened when one species held absolute power over others. "Tell them we accept their surrender," Katie decided. "But they will face trial for their crimes, and they will never again be allowed to hold positions of authority over other species. The age of galactic empires is over." Colonel Amy Foster coordinated the establishment of new communication networks as former Confederation worlds began the complex process of learning how to govern themselves. Some species immediately declared independence and began rebuilding their traditional cultures. Others formed voluntary alliances with neighbors who